All right, so I'm Michael Alexander Stratmanis.
I'm Michael Damani Stratmanis.
Let's do it. What can I tell you?
All right. Well, a couple of things. When you were a young man trying to figure out what your role in society was going to be, how did you feel about the future of our nation? Were you optimistic? Did you think that the issues our community faced at the time could and would be addressed? Were you pessimistic, or was this not a concern of yours?
That's interesting. I guess I have to say that I was. Pessimistic in that, I sort of always believe that, racial bias and, some of the things that I'm concerned about. You talk about our community. I think about racial bias, discrimination, poverty, inequality. It's for some reason, I guess I've always believed that those things are always going to be there. And I also believe that I couldn't see in front of me in the short term a way for those things to be kind of overcome permanently. But at the same time, I guess I'd say, I don't know if you'd call it optimistic, but I always believed that there was. But at the same time, it's interesting, not believing that things would change, I was just sort of determined to make a difference.
Yeah.
And you would think that you would have to be optimistic that things would actually change to really want to make a difference, otherwise why bother?
Yeah.
But even though I felt like I needed to make a difference, and I think it's because of just what I was taught. I think I was taught a lot about the civil rights movement, and your grandmother was really engaged, and Opa and your grandmother were this kind of interracial couple.
Yeah.
And I think they just always. I think it was just always a part of the DNA, right? You just make a difference. You do the best you can.
Yeah.
You work hard. Yeah. So that was my yeah.
Okay.
That was my perspective.
So I had a follow-up question to that, which you kind of answered. Did you think that your presence as an individual was to have a constructive impact on the community and perhaps our nation as a whole?
Yeah, one thing that I realized recently was always a part of me is I always felt like I had a responsibility to. So I was thrust very early on into a lot of environments where I was the only black kid there, or one of one or two. And for some reason I carried with me this responsibility that, I might not be, that in some way I could determine the way that the majority would view black people through me. And so, when I was your age, I really went out of my way to be, and a little older, like extremely, and this might sound kind of Uncle Tomish, but like extremely polite.
Yeah.
And I think part of the responsibility that was put on me by my parents and my grandparents were because they all said that I was smart and they were going to invest a lot in me through my education, that I had a responsibility, to kind of really do well and to show people what black people could do through me. It seemed like they were investing a lot in me, and because they wanted, and so I had this responsibility, and the responsibility was not just for myself and to them, but that I needed to, through my individual actions, make a difference, and it was kind of heavy, and I've actually tried hard not to really put that on you,
Right.
and to give you the sense that you could just, your responsibility was to kind of do the best that you could do.
I see. I think that I don't know, I definitely looking back I see that in my upbringing, but I think that it's funny how I've kind of I don't know, I ask these questions because this is something that I think about all the time. Like despite despite the lack of that push in my upbringing, it's just kind of like you said, it's almost like in our blood.
Yeah.
But
you're smart and you're educated, so you see the world around you. You see what needs to be done.
yeah. I hope so. I'm working on it. Well, I guess okay. I guess I'll ask another question that I had written down. So, with an absentee father a major factor in your upbringing, I understand that you felt a strong need to be there for your children when your children came along, which you most definitely have been. Looking at your family now, are you proud of yourself? Is there anything you wish you had done differently, or do you feel that there's something you must do differently today?
I'm actually more proud of you than I am of me.
Yeah.
Because I think that I'm actually really touched that you said that I was there for you. I felt like I was so I felt like when I had you when I was really young.
Yeah.
I was 23.
Wow.
No, 25.
Yeah, I was
25.
It's still young.
It's still young.
Yeah.
I was 25, and so I guess when you were really young, yeah, I was around, but I was not a confident father at all. I really thought, frankly, that I just lacked a lot of confidence, and didn't quite know, and I didn't have any role models really in a way, because of my father being absent and not being around, and then my adoptive father, Opa, and them getting divorced and not living with him.
Right.
So I felt like I was dealing with a lot. I wasn't. I don't think I was the best husband either. I don't think I really weren't. It took me a while to get to the point where I realized like what a true partnership was, and so I think I left a lot of the day-to-day care for you and to her, and so I have a lot of critiques, as you can notice, of myself as a father.
Yeah. And
when you were in high school, I was working at the White House, and I just don't feel like I was there for you, really. I don't think I was around. I think I felt like I kind of lost touch with you during those years. So, I'm actually not all that. I'm not all that proud of my behavior as a father all the way. Like there are definitely things I could have done better. And I think, despite all that, I think you're doing great. So that's why I say I'm more proud of you than I am of me. I'm looking forward to, you talked about my relationship with my father. Kurt and I have developed a much better relationship as I've gotten older and as he's gotten older.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't around, and I think I'm actually looking forward to how our relationship is going to develop over the years. I have more time than I did then, and I can be around more, and so.
You can go your own parents.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
Exactly. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm gonna ask this one. Because it's a great story, and I know you love telling it. How was it that you first came to know Barack and Michelle Obama?
All right. Well, I do like telling that story, but I'll tell it from a different perspective because I often tell it sort of as like someone who works for them now, and an advisor and all that stuff. So, but I'll tell you how it was at the time.
Okay.
So at the time when I met them, I was desperately trying to figure out how not to fail at law school. Like I felt like I had really struggled through college. I basically got kicked out of the theater program for my grades, and my grades were because I wasn't really on it. Kind of, in a panic, did really well as I graduated from college. I sort of had this pattern of struggling early and then like putting myself in a position where I had to do really well if I was going to be able to move forward, and then like getting it together and doing really well. And so I was going into law school, and my academic career had been one of, I was kind of like a B- student. I could get A's on either classes that I really enjoyed or where I really applied myself. I've always had that word, apply yourself.
Yeah.
Apply myself. And then, where I was naturally inclined towards it, I could probably get away with a moderate effort B. And where I was not naturally inclined, I would get a moderate effort like C or D. So, so I was always trying to find some summer job. Plus, I like being out of the house. And plus, I liked having my own money because your grandmother is cheap. And relying on her for any kind of money to do anything was like a non-starter. I learned that really early on when I was young. So I was a bike messenger, as you know.
Right.
You would be a bike delivery guy yourself for a while. And I was hustling, and I was trying to like desperately meet people and find out something, because I felt like there was something out there that if I could latch onto it, I could get pulled out of where I was doing and where I was into something better and greater. And I didn't really know what that was, but that was my mindset. So as you know, I found out that they were assigning the messengers, and the messenger service that I was working with got a contract with a law firm. And I was like, boom, I gotta get on that. So I talked to the dude. He got me on that. I went to the law firm. I started to try to meet everybody that was in the law firm, to the point where I was like, I had a suit and a jacket, and I would wear the suit and jacket to work and fake like I was a young law clerk and try to meet people. Met some people then, and they introduced me to the whole thing about like getting a summer job. And so I called these people constantly over the year. I was going into my senior year in college. So I called these people, and then I found this one lady called me back at Sidley and Austin, this law firm, and I called her every month. And then I got here, started working the next summer selling clothes down on Michigan Avenue, this place called Structure. You know the Limited Express down there on Michigan Avenue?
Is it like Mag Mile?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Limited Express like across the street from the Apple Store.
Okay.
So they used to have a men's division, the Limited Express, called Structure. So I was selling clothes there, and the woman called me back, and she was like, I'm going to hire you as a paralegal for the rest of the summer, because all of our summer clerks are law students, and you're not a law student, you're going into law school, but this summer I'll hire you as a paralegal, but I'll like connect you with the law clerks and stuff. So I was like, bet. So I got in, and I met a couple people, and one of the people I met was Michelle Robinson, and she really stood out as a mentor, somebody I was just so impressed with her, and so yeah, and then everybody at the time was talking about Barack Obama, because he had been there the next summer, because he was a law student who's graduating from law school, and the previous summer, and they wanted him to come back as a lawyer permanently, which he did not do. He ended up going to a civil rights his firm, but they were talking about him, so I found out about him then. And that's when we all met that summer.
See, I never heard that.
Yeah, there you go. And I think the thing about it, which is hard to, it's not something that's really a part of my story now, is I really felt like I felt like if things were to go along without my changing the trajectory of the ordinary path, somehow I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted to do. I needed to find something to kind of shake things up. You know, I had this kind of desperate thing where I was just like, man, I gotta shake things up. Like I gotta meet somebody new. I gotta get out of the circumstance. And there's this little kind of desperation in it. Yeah.
Okay. So this question was originally going to be addressed to your personal life and perhaps your career.
Yeah.
But you've kind of already answered that in that sense. So I'm gonna ask you in regards to your fatherhood.
Yeah.
Was there a time as a father when you were faced with self-doubt, and how did you overcome it?
So being a father, I think, is literally learning how to live with self-doubt.
Really?
Constantly, yeah. You know, like, so, I don't know if you know the story. So you were maybe 1.5, and you had gotten a cold, a fever. And your mom left. I was studying for the bar.
Okay.
So, yeah, you were like a little over 1. And so I wasn't working. I was at home studying for the bar, and your mom was off working. And you had a fever. She left me, and you were shivering. And so you looked like really cold. So I put like some blankets over you. And by the time she came home, your fever, which was like normal, like a little high, had shot up to a dangerous point.
Really?
Because I had put a bunch of blankets over you and made you warm. And like, it was the exact wrong thing to do. And I think, you know, whether you were sick with a fever, or you were learning how to talk, or whether you were learning how to walk, or whether you were in school and you were, you know, like something happened in school, or, you know, you had misbehaved in school, or you weren't like getting a course right, or you weren't learning a subject well as we thought, you know, the teacher thought you could. You know, I didn't know what to do. And there was no one else to do anything except, like, you know, me. And
right.
And so you never know, you're never sure.
Yeah.
You're never sure. And then you have this experience where you start growing older, and then you start spending more time away from me than you were with me. And your friends became super important in your life, like became everything, really. And then you sort of lose influence, I felt like, over you, in major ways. And that's like this just journey, really.
Yeah.
Right? Of letting you grow up. So one of the worst moments for me was when you were here, you had gone to college, and you called, and you were really down, and I think that's when we, you know, started really worrying about, you know, whether you were in the right place, whether you were doing the right thing. And you hung up the phone, and I just cried. You know, I just cried, and I just remember moaning, you know, my boy, because it was just so helpless. You know, we were in D.C., you were here, you were, you know, 18 years old, you know, you were on your own. You had made it clear to us that you wanted to be on your own, that you wanted to do your own thing, and I literally did not know what to do. And so, and it had felt like to leave you on your own to deal with this seemed like a mistake. To come and kind of grab you, or try to grab you, right? Because you're a grown man, you do what you want to do seemed like a mistake. To try to dictate and tell you what to do seemed like a mistake. It just I didn't know what to do. So I had lots of moments of self-doubt, and that I think is what being a father is. You kind of live with that and do the best you can.
Right.
Man, got deep.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, if you had one wish for me, what would it be?
So, I think, as you know, as I said, I when I was in high school, I started really thinking that I wanted to be an actor, and went to college to be an actor, and I ended up doing other things, and I've always and I've found my path. And I think it's one where I've combined a lot of different things and given myself options to do a bunch of different things. And even though I'm doing this work at this foundation now, I'll probably at some point end up doing something else.
Right.
Just because that's been the nature of my career. And I think the thing that I want for you the most, one wish I had for you would be for you to have this belief that you have tried to do what is in your heart to do. And I actually don't even think that whether at the end of that there is some point at the end where you feel like you've done it. I don't think that happens. I don't think we get to the point where we're like, I accomplished it. I climbed the mountain. Even people who climb mountains end up going down and finding another mountain to climb.
Right.
And so I think the wish for you is for you to, at this age, to be able to look back and feel like, you know what, that thing that was on my heart, that I was really like, man, I really want to do that. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And you be able to look back and like look at the journey around it, and have a bunch of stories to tell.
Right.
Your son
Yeah.
or daughter, right?
Yeah.
About, well, that happened and this happened and that didn't work out and I messed that up and that was awesome. And I think the thing I admire the most about you is that you're as a musician, as an artist, and even as a person, whether it's the spiritual practice or that you go for it, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool. I think there are a lot of people, most of the miserable people I know are people who have blamed other things, other circumstances, or themselves or other people for not going for it. So, yeah.
What are some long-term goals of yours right now? I want to lose weight. I feel like I'm living unhealthy, and I worry about it. I think I'm getting to the age where, living the way I live, not exercising, not eating right is gonna have an impact on my health in a serious way, and so I worry about that. So that's definitely a goal. That's probably more of a short-term goal, but right.
Long-term, I would like to have a period of time where I've changed my lifestyle on that. You know, your mom and I were talking about living overseas.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I know, right?
Wow.
I know.
When did this happen?
I don't know. She's really she's like thinking about living overseas for a little while, which, right?
Wow.
So that's pretty
cool.
that's pretty cool. So that's there.
What places were y'all talking about?
You know, she's a lot of like Paris, Europe.
Yeah.
You know, some other places. You know, I've been to Africa. She hasn't. I want to take her to Africa.
Okay.
And you know, I'm actually thinking about moving into at some point teaching, and maybe, you know, going to kind of a university college environment. I like reading. I like talking. I like telling stories. I like I like thinking about issues and thinking about things. And so you know, that's another long-term goal. And then I got to learn something new. I don't know what it is. Painting, photography. I got to learn a new thing. So you know, start from the bottom and work my way out.
Wow.
So we'll see. So that's it. That's what I got.
Okay. Wow. That's cool, man. Yeah.
So we gotta figure it out, man. We gotta figure it out. But we'll see.
Okay. Cool. Well, I guess if there's one, I was trying to think of this one question while you're in the middle of answering another. As you were talking about how you struggled through college.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until you got to law school that you really buckled down. So when you developed that mindset, what kind of were you mostly independent in that kind of thirst for knowledge, or did you have more of a seeking spirit? Were you seeking you know, advice and help from mentors, or were you?
That's a good question.
You trying to like stay in your lane and figure things out for yourself?
You know, I think a lot because of my situation with my fathers, I've always sought out mentors. And I've always had mentors, and you know, I've always kind of been hungry for that guidance. So yeah, that was having that guidance is a big part of it. Yeah, I was also in that school environment, and you know, one of the things I always loved about that environment was that you're sort of free to explore a bunch of issues, debate a bunch of issues. It's in the water. It's kind of always around you. You know, there's always some provocative person coming in to lecture, or there's always a group of students who believe something, you know, and you can like get in with them and learn it and debate some other folks. And so being in that kind of intellectually stimulating environment was something I always enjoyed, and so I was always around that. I think what really happened is I felt like I needed to prove to myself. I'd always believed that I could have been a good student, but I had never really gone all in on it. And I felt like I needed to prove to myself that I could really go all in and commit, and not hold back, and you know, see what I could do. You know, there's this phrase, I think it was Nikki Giovanni, that our greatest fear is that we're more powerful than we can possibly imagine. And I think, you know, that was a large part of that. You know, my academic career had been one where I think early on when I was young, and I think this is, and I always wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to you. I don't know how good a job I did. But I think when I was young, I think a lot of times, particularly young black kids, particularly young black boys, our energy, our passion, just who we are gets kind of popped down, you know, like, you know, stop doing that, stop saying that, stop going there, you know, get put in this box, and you start not trusting in a school environment your own passion and instincts, and it makes you very hesitant. And you know, a lot of guys, a lot of boys, you know, if they don't ever get reinforced about their academic skill, because we're all brilliant, right? God gave us these gifts. Like we're all made in His image. We're all brilliant. We have these things inside of us that we can do. And if you get squashed down, you feel like that the stuff that you're feeling is wrong, right? And you gotta have another way of dealing with it. And some end up just diverting. But the way I dealt with it was I always had I was very hesitant, and I would only really, as I said earlier, get into it when I had a big test or a big quiz, or I loved the teacher, or I loved the subject. And I was like, what if I'm going to law school, I want to do well. I heard that the time that was most important was your first year, and even your first semester of your first year. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to literally leave it all on the field. And that was a big motivation for me, was to prove to myself that I could be successful if I went all in. Yeah. Most of the things that have happened that are good for me in life have begun when I've had a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah. And
had to prove to somebody that I could, myself or someone else, that I could do it. I'm usually at my best when I'm a little angry.
Okay.
There it is.
There it is.
All right. Anything else? Anything you really wanted to know?
Well, I have this one question. I don't know where it came from. It doesn't really have anything to do with, well, I guess it does have something to do with fatherhood, raising a young black man. It has a lot to do with fatherhood. In response to the widely circulated events concerning police brutality, many police abolitionists are raising their voices perhaps more than ever. Do you think that the idea of disarming and abolishing the police is crazy? Or do you think that reform is necessary or complete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think the idea of abolishing the police is crazy. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I don't think it's not because there's structures involved. But I also think that there is evil in the world. I think there's evil inside of us. And I think there are people who do things to harm each other. And I think left unchecked, there will be people who harm one another. I wish we could get to the point where we'd have so much of a beloved community and have restorative justice so that we could handle those offenses within the context of a beloved community. In indigenous societies, quote unquote less civilized societies, if somebody violates someone, there's a way to deal with that within the community. You don't really need the police. Someone knows that the violation has occurred, they know who to go to. There's a community that's decided how to deal with it, and that person has to make restitution or do something restorative to deal with the harm that they've created. And I think, I wish we'd get closer and closer, ever closer to creating a society that's like that. But I think in the absence of that, I think there will be people who will hurt and harm each other. And I think that we need to be protected from that. I think we need to acknowledge I think the thing that bothers me about the way that the police, and we have family that are police officers, my uncle, your great uncle, our cousin. I think they're good people, and I think I love them, and I know they want to, they try to do the right thing every day. I think the thing that bothers me is that we don't acknowledge our history, the history of how police are structured, our history about how police, even police forms were created. I actually need to read something. I heard that there was something about how the police were created in the South to deal with black folks and to deal in the North with organizers, labor workers, unions. Our history of police. I also think that there's an interesting militarization, military culture that takes place with police. That you take a military culture which is designed to, have us against them, and then you bring that into communities. That same culture, and I think it creates a lot of harm. So there's a lot of work to be done there. That's my perspective on it, and I worry about you, man. I worry about you every day. I told you this, I get these little news alerts. I gotta stop getting them. But I get these news alerts where every time, there's a shooting, I get an alert, and I always look at the age, and I always look at the place, and then I relax a little bit. I feel sadness for the victim.
Yeah.
I feel sadness for the situation, but I feel a little relief that you're not on that list. And the times when they're your age, you might get a little text from me pretending it's about something else. But the purpose is, really is the reason why I was pinged is I'm worried about you. I want to make sure you're all right. So it's hard. It's hard out there. But, you've shown me over the last few years as you've come up in Chicago that, you know what's up. So...
Yeah.
But we risk that, man. We risk that. We all risk that.
Yeah.
We risk that. You and me, we risk that every day. That's just a part of, unfortunately, what we have to go through. We could choose to live in Mayberry somewhere. Might be a little safer, maybe not.
Well, I don't know. I guess that's about it.
That's it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Cross the fence. No fence, but we chopped it up. Cheers.